Hey Healing Fam, I'm Kateria Poe and welcome to Heal with KP. Hey Healing Fam, welcome to Heal with KP and I am Kateria Poe. Thank you for everyone who checked out my last video on emotional healing. If you haven't, take some time to look that over. In that video, I just talked about some of the things that we have to do in order to heal, some of the things that's required of us if we want to heal emotionally. And that does entail facing a lot of those past experiences and ultimately just making sense of them for ourselves so that they don't hinder us in having a quality life. And so today I want to talk to y'all a little bit about the cognitive triangle. And don't worry, it's not anything super confusing, but it is the foundation of CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. It is a therapy modality that I use most often when I am in therapy. And so the cognitive triangle is an illustration of how our thoughts, emotions, and behavior affect one another. I think this is something that we all have heard before with some of the phrases when they say you are what you think. And even when people say you are what you eat. And so a lot of times, whatever we are consuming, a lot of times that's what we digest. And so we become a representation of that thing. And so it is important for us to make sure that we are able just to identify our thoughts, identify emotions, and identify those behaviors, because oftentimes they are either giving us the results that we want, which is good when all those things align, or they are not giving us the results that we want. And so we do want to make sure that we can stop, identify the things that are not working, and change some things so that we can get the results that we want. And so the cognitive triangle is important for us to understand just the basis of it, because it does connect those thoughts, it connects our emotions, and it connects our behaviors. And so everyone could benefit from this because it is something that we do when we process not only our stresses, but when we're processing our life. And so all that means is that what we are thinking is connected or influences an emotion. And what emotions that we are feeling is connected to or influences our behavior. And that behavior then goes back around and influences our thoughts. If you are someone who experiences self-defeating thoughts, if you are someone who experiences maybe even a lack of motivation, a lot of times we have not taken the time to identify what is the root thought that is driving that behavior. And so again, our thoughts are connected to our emotions, which also are connected to our behaviors. And everything cycles back around. And so this cognitive triangle is important because it really displays a cycle in our life. And if it's good, if it has a positive outcome, then again, that is a pattern that we want to keep up. If it is something that we're doing that's negative, that is having a negative impact maybe on our health, just for example, maybe smoking cigarettes. If that is a natural pattern of you managing your stress, we know that in the long run, it may not be as beneficial because we know that there are also health risks associated with smoking cigarettes. And so if someone is stressed out, they're on their job, maybe their thoughts are, I don't want to work here anymore. This job isn't worth it. Their emotions are maybe sad, feeling defeated, but their behavior is smoking the cigarettes versus looking for a new job versus, going back to school to try to figure out what it is that they want to do. That ultimately that can have a negative impact on their life overall. And so we know that the cognitive triangle is important because it talks about mind and heart renewal. And so a lot of times when we're going throughout our day-to-day, we forget the things that we're not giving ourselves. Our thoughts have the ability to change what we feel and what we do. And so your thoughts have the ability to change what you feel and what you do. I know we've all heard the importance of just being accountable for the words that we speak out of our mouths. And so this is something oftentimes I see repetitively within therapy. And maybe they're not saying it to other people, but If you are someone that struggles with anxiety, if you are someone that struggles with depression, I encourage you to reflect over what are the things that you are saying to yourself. What are the things that you're meditating on? What are the things that you are repeating? What are the songs that you're replaying? And is it really working to improve your mood? Meaning, is it combating those negative thoughts? Is it combating those negative emotions? Or is it making you feel even more comfortable with those unhelpful thoughts or unhelpful emotions that you're experiencing? And so cognitive behavioral therapy is important because it allows us to really retrace our steps, and we really have to be able to identify what area of our life needs improvement in order for us to get to those goals or to reach that destiny that we feel like that we should have within our lives. And so a lot of times those things are connected because it is a trickle-down effect. And so just as I showed it, the cognitive behavioral triangle before, it has arrows, and those arrows connect all three. So our thoughts, our emotions, and behaviors. And so oftentimes, if we are not pleased with how we're handling a situation, if we're not pleased with the behavior that we're doing, if say we say again that we want to stop smoking, but ultimately every day we continue to smoke. Maybe we haven't even lessened the amount of cigarettes that we're smoking. We are maybe adding on an additional cigarette a day or whatever. But ultimately, if we're not pleased with that behavior that we're not pleased with is going to lead to another negative thought. Or it can allow the negative thoughts that are already there to have a little bit more power over us. And so it's really important for us to understand the cycle that we're experiencing, especially when we're having those self-defeating thoughts, because it impacts our emotions and it also impacts our actions. And so if you are someone that has self-defeating thoughts, it's really going to be helpful to identify what those thoughts are and to start to reframe those negative thoughts and start to challenge those negative thoughts. And so what that could look like, say, for example, if I am someone who struggles with my self-image, if I don't like the way that I look, and because of that, I continue to have this thought in the back of my mind that I don't look good enough, or ultimately that I'm not enough. And so what happens when we don't check that idea of that I'm not enough, it leads to negative emotions, and so negative feelings. And so some of those negative emotions and or feelings that can come from the thought I'm not enough would be, I feel sad, maybe I feel down, depressed, maybe I just have low energy, right? Because I don't think I'm enough, right? And so a lot of times, again, if we have that thought, I'm not enough, feelings associated with it, sad, feeling down, our behavior a lot of times is we're laying down, we're not doing anything. Maybe we are binge watching way too much TV, not on the weekends, but every day we're just binging. Maybe we're not even getting to work on time. Maybe we're not going to work at all, you know? And so all those things can have a negative sort of trickle down. And so we want to make sure that we are challenging those negative thoughts. And I want to just take a moment and just to pause and encourage you all on today. If you are someone who is experiencing some negative thoughts, some self-defeating thoughts, and maybe it's something that you feel like you can't do. And so this is something that I have to remind myself to do, even now, as a therapist, as a 30-something-year-old mom who has experienced a lot of life. These are things that we have to continue to remind ourselves to do. And so there's no one walking the face of this earth who gets a pass for our mental health, for our spiritual health and wellness, and physical health and wellness if we're not putting in the work to consistently manage it and consistently tame those things. And so what I've been talking about today, cognitive triangle, and processing our unhelpful thoughts, it is something that we have to be diligent at, and we have to use it consistently in order to make progress with it. One reason I think that a lot of us might struggle when we are trying to do things for the first time, because we are not able to break down the concept of what we are actually capable of. And so if you know my story, you know that I was in a car collision in 2015, and it took me a while to recover, a little over a year, and I also had to learn to walk again. But I'm saying all this to say that in the process of learning to walk again, I had to really simplify everything. I mean, I wanted it, not even bite size. I wanted it something that, you know, was smaller than bite size, if that's the thing. But anyway, what I had to do before I can even learn to walk again was stand. There's a saying that says you gotta crawl before you walk. And so in my phase, I was an adult, and so there was no crawling, but I had to stand, you know. And so there was a song that I would play. I would try to find a song that was about 3 minutes, because that was my goal, to literally stand for 3 minutes. And so if you are someone who is facing something and it seems so big, I'll encourage you to break that thing down. And so for me, in my example of learning to walk again, it was simply standing for 3 minutes and standing for a longer period of time before I could even take that step, you know. And so a lot of times we hear baby steps, it's small steps, and yes, but before we even take that step, we got to make sure that you're able to stand. And so I encourage you on today, whatever it is that you're facing that you think you're not capable of doing, make sure that you are not creating blocks for yourself that are avoiding you from doing that thing. And so one way that we can avoid blocks is to set aside time to do something. Oftentimes when I'm working with clients who have high anxiety and it's hard for them to complete a task, one of the things that they think, or an unhelpful thought, is that I don't have time, or I won't finish it, or I can't finish it. And so a lot of the times we start a thing with the end goal to finish it, and I think that is good. But when we start something with an unrealistic point of view on how long it's going to take us to finish something, it can add so much pressure that we don't even do it. We just stop. You know, we just throw in the towel before we even get there. And so I've been encouraging a few people this week, a few of my clients, to break down those things. And so another example of breaking something down, if it's a goal that we're trying to get to, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to finish this video by 2 p.m. today, one thing I can do is I'm going to devote 2 hours of my day to doing this. I can devote 1 hour of my time to doing this. And it's a similar concept, really, if we're thinking about working out, because we don't go to the gym with the intentions of having abs the next day. We don't go to the gym with the intentions of being fit the very next day. And so it's really the same concept, you know. And so analogies is something that I use oftentimes in therapy, because I feel that we're not able to fully grasp the things that we are doing unless we are able to compare it to something else, and not comparing it in a negative sense, but comparing it in a way that helps us to fully understand what it is that we're trying to do. If this was helpful for you today, please drop a comment below. Share this with your friends and family. Watch it again, and I really hope that you will to become more aware of what it is that you're thinking, feeling, and doing. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.